Hey guys, it's Ryan with Big Dog Investing. Thank you guys for tuning into my channel. If you guys could do a couple of things for me, if you guys going to like, comment, subscribe to my channel if you guys have not done so already. Click the bell notification down below so YouTube can send you guys notifications whenever I release videos. Watch my videos all the way to the end. And if you guys could share my videos and share my channel with anyone, I'm trying to grow my channel as much as I can, and I definitely need your guys' help in doing so. Getting started today is going to be Tuesday, March 14th. This is a pretty big jam-packed update. The CPI report came out today. We're going to talk about how that affected the stock market as well as the cryptocurrency market, and then also how it affected bank stocks in general. There was a drastic change in bank stocks. And investor confidence in those. So we're going to see what happens with that. There was also a lot of news that came out of Silicon Valley Bank. So we're going to go over that, as well as there's a lawsuit that the SEC is in right now that Coinbase actually filed an amicus brief. So make sure you guys tune in all the way to the end of this video to make sure that you guys get that full update. Now, getting into our daily market update for cryptocurrencies, the total market cap for all cryptocurrencies right now is $1,099,000,000,000. This is a 2.08% increase on the day. Bitcoin right now is currently trading at $24,916, Ethereum at $1,709, and XRP is currently trading at 37.48 cents. Getting into our Bitcoin price, though, if we look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin did reach $26,500. So $26,514 was the high for the day today. Now, in my opinion, this is really good. It shows that, people still have a lot of investor confidence in Bitcoin. But a lot of this price increase, in my opinion, again, was from what we talked about yesterday with CZ of Binance, um, putting a bunch of money from their reserves into Bitcoin. And it caused the price to increase. Now, if they keep their money in, it's going to keep the price up. If they decide to pull out at any point, though, again, it's going to probably drop the price depending on how much people might buy back into it as the price starts to drop. But getting into our biggest gainers on the day today, AGIX is going to be up 41.8%, Stacks is going to be up 33.2%, and CFX is going to be up 32.3%. Now, AGIX, our biggest gainer, is an artificial intelligence coin. If you guys don't know, or you haven't been on my channel, we've talked about this. This is just a buzzword right now. A lot of people are still talking about AI, and the reasons why AI are going up, specifically in general compared to all other cryptocurrencies, is because it's a buzzword. We had the same thing when metaverse coins were taking off, like Solana and Sandbox. Those coins were tied to the metaverse. So as we start talking about buzzwords, as cryptocurrencies start getting put in the news, those are the coins that you guys are going to see drastic price increases. In my opinion, I would steer clear. Again, no financial advice with this, but a lot of people have already positioned themselves heavily into these coins. As the price increases, they're going to start selling off, taking profits, and then basically you're going to be stuck with coins until somebody decides to massively sell off, like a lot of this happened with these other metaverse tokens, mainly being Solana. We'll talk about that in another update. But getting into our Watcher Guru news, inflation falls to 6%. So I did watch this report. Inflation's up 0.4% from the last month. And this means that we are at a 6% inflation for the last 12 months. This brought a lot of investor confidence into the markets, and that's why cryptocurrency is up. The Dow Jones is going to be up 1.06%, and the S&P 500 is going to be up 1.65%. It did reach a high of 2%, and then the Dow Jones was roughly about 1.5%. But getting into our bank stocks, with this, our First Republic Bank did go up. It had a nice increase on the day today. So it was up 26.98%, which is drastically different compared to the majority of the other stocks. Wells Fargo is going to be up 4.5%. Bank of America is going to be up 0.88%. Charles Schwab is going to be up 9.19%. And he ended up, due to a lot of this, the CEO of Schwab, I think, invested like $3 million into his own stocks. And that's the reason why that one's up by so much. And Citigroup is up 5.95%. So a lot of people are starting to trust the banking institutions again. But if we look at our 5-day for First Republic, and it's a smaller branch of the Silicon Valley Bank. So if you have your head bank right here, which is Silicon Valley, you have a bunch of sub banks. First Republic was one of those sub banks. Its price was roughly about $115 on March 8th. And then when the collapse started to happen, when people were unsure what was going to happen with Silicon Valley Bank, it dropped drastically from $77 down to $19. If you got in at this $19 price, you were up 100% on your guys' investment. So you basically 2 extra money. You guys are doing pretty well. I do see, as long as the federal government keeps their promise that all of the money in these banks are going to be backed, I do see a price increase going back to roughly about $50. Again, no financial advice, but this is still a high risk because we're still unsure what's going to happen after the investigation. Looking into some more Watcher Guru news, though, we talked about how Bitcoin did reach this price. Metaverse, or Meta, known as Facebook's company, is to fire 10,000 employees. This is kind of ridiculous because this is where I think the numbers were fudged with the CPI report. Because a lot of people are still getting out of work. They're still being actively fired from their jobs, especially in the tech field. This not just in social media tech, but as well as your cryptocurrency tech companies. There's still massive layoffs in a lot of these companies. The only company that I know in cryptocurrency that is still actively hiring right now is Ripple. And this is why I still think that Ripple is going to still dominate and the XRP token is going to be super successful, is because they're positioning themselves for the future. They're not just going with the hype of things. Like when Bitcoin was going up from like $25,000 to $70,000, every cryptocurrency company was hiring at a drastic rate because they thought that cryptocurrency was going to keep on continuing to go up. Basically, people were predicting, oh, Bitcoin to 100,000, Bitcoin to $1 million. If that's the case, yeah, these companies need to hire these massive amounts of people. But when the coin dropped from $70,000 to roughly about 16,500, a lot of these companies started firing people. And it's because they couldn't afford to keep them on staff. Why are you massively hiring? You guys need to prepare for the future. And these people leave jobs to go work for your guys' companies, and then you guys just lay them off and say, sorry, we didn't realize that, we were going to have a bad year. That's why I think Ripple again is going to be super successful, is because they have timed themselves and positioned themselves for the future and not just for hypes. Getting into some more news, though, we talked about how there's going to be an investigation by the federal government into the Silicon Valley collapse and the reasons why it collapsed. But the SEC finally launched an investigation into Silicon Valley Bank executive stock sales made days before the collapse. We talked about this in the last video, where the CEO, CFO, and CMO, but all combined sold for $4.4 million worth of shares of stocks into the company in the last 12 days of the before the collapse, as well as also giving out a bonus to the executives. Roughly 2 hours before the federal government seized the bank, the company decided to give executives their bonuses. Which, why are you giving bonuses in March? Normally, it comes at Christmas or early January. But that's besides the point. Finally, the SEC starts doing their fucking job. They should have done this in advance, though. Like, they should have been regulating banks to begin with. But they're too busy caught up ruling by enforcement with the cryptocurrencies, and they allow a lot of this stuff to fail. Again, Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, they let the FTX exchange basically collapse because, where was Sam Bankman Fried? He was giving money to a lot of people in Congress, mainly on the left. Okay. And in that, is Gary Gensler tied to that? And that's why he's not investigating a lot of this stuff, because they're actively trying to hide it. We're going to get into that, though. And the reason why we're going to get into that, though, is because it's kind of funny and kind of ironic that there was an investigation a little bit. Some news came out that California governor failed to disclose personal ties to Silicon Valley Bank while lobbying for a bailout. So I found an article to this because I try to be as transparent as possible. So when I do find some things that are very controversial, I'll actually find some articles for it. Again, everything's going to be put in the comments for you guys. So Gavin Newsom hides ties to failed Silicon Valley Bank in statement praising Biden's bailout. So he was actively pushing for a bailout from the federal government, and rightfully so. People are trying to, save their money. This is in his state. And he wanted people to make sure that they had their money, that they, trusted the banking institutions to have. So he came out and said the Biden administration is active swiftly and decisively to protect the American economy and strengthen our public confidence in our banking system. Newsom said in a statement Sunday. Their actions this weekend have calmed nerves and had profoundly positive impacts on California. California is a pillar of the American economy, and federal leaders did the right thing, ensuring our innovation economy can continue to grow and move forward. But the reason why he's saying this, or was actively also pushing this, was because he actually has three wine companies that actually have ties and accounts into Silicon Valley Bank. Those companies are Cade, Odette, and Plumpjack. the bank lists as clients on their website. Additionally, the outlet reported that Newsom's wife, Jennifer Siebel, founded a charity called the California Partners Project that received $100,000 from Silicon Valley Bank in 2021 at Newsom's request. So he basically requested that the bank, hand them a handout for charity of $100,000. Is that ethical as a governor to basically ask a bank to give you, yeah, well, not give you essentially, but give your wife's charity $100,000? That's kind of ridiculous. That's definitely unethical and definitely needs to be investigated. It is also reported that the president of Silicon Valley Capital, John China, was a founding member of the charity's board of directors. That's kind of, basically, in my opinion, like I said, unethical. I wouldn't really consider this insider trading, but he's definitely using his position of power to basically make sure that his personal finances and personal companies are basically protected. And in my opinion, that's completely wrong for a person to do. But the Fox, I guess, reached out for a comment from his team, and his team did not immediately respond to Fox's Digital's request for comment. However, a spokesperson told The Intercept that Governor Newsom's business and financial holdings are held and managed by a blind trust, and as they have been since he was first elected governor in 2018. Now, in my opinion, this is him trying to save face as much as he can. This is kind of ridiculous, though. Like, is it really in a blind trust? Because how come he actively pursued this and actively wanted this to happen and didn't disclose that this information that he had actually money inside the bank? In my opinion, he used his position of power, and this is what's caused a lot of, I guess, um, resentment from our federal government, and especially from the people in positions of power, because they abuse it. Getting into some more news, though, Silicon Valley Bank donated $73,450,000 to Black Lives Matter movement and related causes. Again, this is controversial. A lot of people are for this or against this. I'm not going to say, where we lie, but this is very, very controversial that they're donating money to a lot of these causes. Why are banks donating money? What they should be doing is basically holding the money and ensuring that the money stays safe. But they're donating essentially customer funds to these organizations. And then this caused the bank, in my opinion, to collapse. You're giving out $100,000 to Gavin Newsom's wife's charity. Then you're giving out $73,450,000 to another organization. Doesn't matter what organization it is. It could be to the Black Lives Matter. It could be to ensuring that animal shelters actually have proper funding. That's not a bank's job to do. That's what the government's supposed to do. Well, the government's supposed to take care of the people, but the bank is supposed to be, I guess, nonpartisan. They're supposed to basically just be there and manage the funds. They're not supposed to donate money to political agendas, in my opinion. Now, I did find this because Charlie Kirk ended up posting about this also. He says, "Wow, Silicon Valley Bank gave that this much money to the movement and related causes." There was an article that was posted as well, and this just shows that it's been widely vetted. If you guys have any information that like, oh, that's not true, here's a bunch of sources that are coming out saying against this. So, in my opinion, again, if you guys think I'm wrong for a bank to be able to do this, put it in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. But in my opinion, this is completely outrageous for a bank to donate that much money. It's not even just like like $100,000 to a charity, like he did to Newsom's wife's charity. But again, you shouldn't be donating money to an elected official's wife's charity or an elected official's charity. Or, an elected official should be able to basically disclose that you actually have ties to that bank and basically recuse yourself from any statements related to that, because in a sense, anything that you say now has an impact on the way that things are going to be run. Getting into some more news, though, right here, there's a new CEO of Silicon Valley Bank, and the Silicon Valley Bank CEO urges customers to bring deposits back. You are all in a position to cast votes. The article is right here, and in this, they basically ask that these individuals who took the money out to please bring the money back. He also said that who wants to return the deposits to the institution. This is the single most important thing you can do to ensure that Silicon Valley Bank survives. And again, I agree with that. If you want a bank to survive, obviously it needs money in the banking institution. Otherwise, it's just a building. Okay. But if they've been properly or improperly managing the money, I don't know if I would trust this bank. Maybe the CEO is, right in saying this. Obviously, he has the best interest of the company at heart, and he wants to save face with all the employees and basically make sure that they stay employed. But in my opinion, if I was a customer or a person who had an account inside this bank, in my opinion, I would not put money back into this bank due to, all the conflicts that have gone on. We talked about how it's donating money where it probably shouldn't be donating money to. The CEO, CFO, and CMO all sold shares of stocks before, totally unethical. They also probably knew that that was, the case where the company was going to fall under. And then 2 hours again before the company got seized by the government, they paid bonuses to those executives. In my opinion, this isn't a company that I would, trust my money into. So again, if you guys are in California and you guys have money in here, again, no financial advice, but I'd go find a new bank. Um, Elizabeth Warren says, fair. The Fed chair Powell actions directly contributed to the bank's failures. For the Fed's inquiry about the credibility, Powell must recuse himself from this internal review. It's appropriate for vice chair of supervision Barr to have the independence necessary for to do this job. And John Deaton comes out and says, Senator Warren, are you going to recuse yourself from participating in any hearing involving Gary Gensler, considering you violated your oath and by duty by not providing oversight to the SEC when you gave Gensler both the questions and suggested answers to your questions that you wanted him to ask? So, for those of you guys that don't know, I've talked about this on my channel before, but you guys can look a lot of this stuff up. Senator Warren had a meeting where Gary Gensler was going to be present. She actually emailed Gensler's office, hey, these are the questions that I'm going to ask you. These are some of the answers that I probably want you to give. And in those, the questions and answers were asked also in the meeting, and Gary Gensler answered those appropriately with suggested answers that Elizabeth Warren's office actually provided. In my opinion, again, that's completely wrong. It's like if I was going to be in a court trial, if I was the defendant, I'd go to the prosecution and say, hey, help me out here. These are the questions that I want you guys to ask me. Please answer. I'll answer them this way, or these are the questions that I'm going to ask. I would like you guys to answer them this way because it's going to help my side. I'm going to look better in front of the American people or look better on trial. And in my opinion, that's completely wrong. She definitely, in my opinion, also with John Deaton, I agree with, violated her oath of office and duty to the American people by having oversight of the SEC. And again, the SEC has failed several times with their actions. Getting into some more news, though, Gary Gensler and his allies launched an all-out war on crypto, and Senator Warren tries to FUD crypto to high heaven. Bitcoin is up big and just overtook Meta in market cap. So, as we talk about this, Elizabeth Warren absolutely despises cryptocurrency. She wants it to fail. She doesn't trust it. She doesn't like it. And the reasons why is she's probably in bed with a lot of these banks who don't want crypto to succeed. So they're basically using a lot of their money saying, hey, this is for you. Please make crypto go away. So Crypto Law actually pointed this out. This is a great article. I would highly recommend you guys read this. Mason versus Sluice, or Crypto Mason, came out and says that Circle CEO says that we must protect the stablecoins and crypto from the banking system itself. And that's spot on. The narrative had been, how do we protect the banking system from crypto? But it should be the other way around. And I think that that's taken place here in demonstrational of how do we protect a stablecoin from the banking system itself. So the Circle CEO actually came out in a video. They were on the news, and this is a video where they actually released that entire statement. I would highly encourage you guys to watch this. Again, the video will be in the comments. But in my opinion, it says right here that Circle CEO says USDC is the safest digital dollar on the internet right now. And I'm indifferent on that, especially because USDC got depegged from the US dollar. It is now repegged again to the dollar, though. So it was and did reach 87 cents, which now it is now trading at 99.9 cents to 1.01 cents. So In my opinion, it is safe, but is it the safest? No. And the reason why it's not the safest is because we did see it get depegged from the dollar. So again, we have to be transparent. Not all digital currencies can be 100% safe and successful, just like our banking institution can't also, just like we saw over this past weekend with the banking failures. This one was really interesting and again controversial, but we always want to talk about things. FDA updates fact sheets for Johnson and Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine to include a warning about the risk of myocarditis as a potential side effect. In my opinion, all COVID-19 vaccines need to have this. There's been several reports of myocarditis depending on which vaccine you take. All vaccines have had myocarditis for individuals. This needs to be a side effect, that people actually do need to know about. A lot of people are spreading this false information about the COVID-19 vaccines. Obviously, we're not seeing it as much in the news anymore. But they're still pushing this, and we are, as a federal government, we are giving millions and billions of dollars to these institutions who created these vaccines, and that's where our taxpayer dollars are going to. That's why we talk about these things, is because our government is actively giving money to these companies to give these vaccines to the American people. Now, should our federal government be doing this? We say that our government is supposed to be here to take care of us, and we should trust our government, but we also have to keep in check, especially with the fundings that are being thrown our way. Getting into some more news, though, Goldman Sachs expect no rate hike in the next Fed meeting. Crazy turn of events. So the next meeting is going to be on March 22nd. This is where Jerome Powell will basically come out and say if we are going to increase interest rates or relatively remain the same. I don't think he's going to decrease the rates. And I kind of disagree with Goldman Sachs. I'd love to be wrong about this, but I do see that we are going to raise interest rates by 25 basis points, or roughly, if you guys don't know the difference, it's going to be 0.25%. And the reason why I think this is, I think that Jerome Powell is going to basically try to use this as a position of strength. And they're going to try to be proactive rather than reactive, because they can raise interest rates by 25 basis points, or again 0.25%. But when they do that, what they're doing is they can just pull that back the next meeting if they choose so. But if they don't do anything now, and then let's say the next month inflation's on the rise, now they have to go at a drastic step and might raise by 50 basis points to try to cover that. So that's why I do believe that they're going to raise interest rates. But most people are going to still expect a 25 basis points interest rate hike. Getting into our last bit of news right here, though, James K. Filan ended up posting this. So the SEC's versus Ripple case. So in the SEC versus Wahi case, Coinbase has filed a motion to file amicus. Argument and full brief is below. So in this Dropbox, what happened was there was three employees at Coinbase that basically were saying, or was one employee, I'm sorry, one employee and then two other individuals, and the employee would give the information on what coins were being listed, and depending on what coins get listed, if you have information prior to this, if you buy into those coins, when they get listed on a major exchange like Coinbase or Binance, typically the price went up. Now it's not the case now, but when it was happening, a lot of the prices of coins increase. So this person would buy coins and then have these two other individuals buy coins, and the prices would increase. The SEC now is investigating this and doing a lawsuit and going to trial for this. But Coinbase wanted to file an amicus brief because in this, the SEC says that Coinbase was selling several unregistered securities. Now, a lot of people are against this. I'm kind of for this. I do believe that this case should go to trial, and these people should actually be held accountable for their actions. They were using insider knowledge, like insider trading, if you would think about in the stock market, and they were doing this for cryptocurrencies, which is completely wrong. But I also want to point out that right here, I think this is funny because XRP Crypto Wolf comes out and says, it's funny how it's not cool to be against the SEC, but back then they were cheering them against Ripple. So a lot of people absolutely hated at Ripple and the token XRP when they were first being sued by the SEC. Now they're starting to realize that the SEC is actually overreaching its power. In this case, I don't believe so. But when they started filing charges against XRP, which they don't even file against XRP, it's filed against Ripple, and XRP is the native token of Ripple. But they filed against Library. They filed cases against several other cryptocurrency coins. They have a one in California going on right now. The SEC also filed with Kraken, with their staking protocols. They're thinking about filing one against Coinbase. There's a lot of information that's been coming out of this and ruling by enforcement right now. So now a lot of people are now absolutely hating on the SEC. There's also speculation that the SEC now only thinks that Bitcoin is a security, and then Ethereum might actually receive a lawsuit. We'll see what happens with that. But we want to make sure that we actually, are in a whole community right now because we want all cryptocurrency to succeed. And Ripple versus the SEC is the biggest case. Now, if Ripple loses, it's going to drastically impact all cryptocurrencies. But if Ripple can pull out a W, it's going to drastically impact in a positive way for cryptocurrencies. And it's going to actually force the SEC to come up with clear guidance. And that's what Coinbase comes out and says inside their amicus brief. Now, they come out and say that basically this state of uncertainty cries out for rulemaking. The SEC must give the industry and the public fair prospective notice of its current position. Yet to date, the commission has declined even to respond to Coinbase's multiple formal rulemaking requests. Instead, the SEC has sought to regulate through enforcement actions against defendants ill-suited to defend themselves. Such cases typically result in a narrow settlement orders that fail to provide genuine guidance to the public and are no substitute for industry-wide rules of general applicability adopted through public notice and comment. Now, this is basically saying that the SEC has been picking on all of the small fish that can't defend themselves, like the bully at your guys' school. The bully goes around and starts picking on you. They pick on the smaller person, the weaker person, and it makes them more powerful. And this is essentially what they're saying. Coinbase is saying in this case, in this amicus brief. And I highly recommend that you guys actually do read this brief and read all the briefs that come out of this because you guys need to be knowledgeable in anything that you guys are invested in. I want to leave that there. If you guys can invest with a big dog, stay on the porch. Thank you guys. Have a good one.